luck is a huge role, right? Like I will never discount you need timing is everything. Luck is there's a lot of luck that plays into even the biggest success stories and and unlucky in the biggest failure stories in a lot of cases, right? Like things out of your control that just happen. You want to put yourself in a position to get lucky, right? And so for me, everything from, hey, like we would have never started Givz the way it is now if I hadn't started Givz in the first place, right? If I had just stayed in investment banking, I wouldn't be right? So that was the first leap to put myself in a position to be able to take advantage of that luck.
This is Evolve CPG, a community of purpose-driven brand leaders who not only believe in better, but actively pursue it. As better products, better brands, and better leadership for a better world. Thanks to you, our listeners, this podcast is now ranked in the top 10% of all podcasts globally. Let's not stop there, though. If you like our show, please take a moment to leave us a rating or review and share your favorite episodes with your network. The more people we reach, the more good we can bring about in this world. If you work in the industry, you can also join our online community where we're going further, faster together at community.evolvecpg.com. I'm your host, Gage Mitchell, founder and creative director of Modern Species, a sustainable brand design agency helping better brands grow and scale their impact. On this episode, we're speaking with Andrew Forman, co-founder and CEO of Givz, about why offering discounts only helps your brand in the short term and why you should consider offering donation incentives instead to save money, increase sales, and align with your values-driven consumers.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm Andrew Forman, founder and CEO of Givz. Givz, Givz. I guess it's important to spell that when you can't see it written down here. We got a 4-letter domain, which we could talk about in Givz.com. But most importantly, what do? We help brands run donation-based incentives. So generally, that's starting with something like, hey, spend over $100 at our store, and we'll give you $5 to give to a charity of your choice. Or, on Labor Day, we are giving you 10% off plus 10% to give to a charity of your choice, and really starting to lessen that dependency on discounts to drive sales in the moment right now and do some good in the process. And so that's what Givz is all about.
Awesome. Love it. I'm excited to break it down a little bit more so people can understand how it works and why it's maybe a better path than discounts. So before we get there, though, I was digging around in your background and noticed you had a background in economics, finance, and capital. So what initially kind of drew you into that field? Like, what was your interest there?
Yeah, so I guess going back to the undergrad college days, I was always a math guy. So I actually double majored in math and economics. I figured I didn't know what I would do with a math degree other than teach math, which I eventually do want to do. Yeah. But that wasn't where I wanted to start my career. That was more of a retirement goal. But the economics piece added in there because I just thought about, I just thought, how does the world run? And understanding some basic economic theories I thought was extremely interesting. And that bled over into some consumer psychology. And ultimately, I made the very sophisticated decision to just go into investment banking because that would pay me the most and give me the most amount of options. I thought going out from there, and so took the kind of liberal arts version of a finance-esque degree because they don't have finance courses at Hamilton College where I studied, or at least they didn't when I was there. But now, made my own finance-esque type of major and combining math and economics, and then went out into the investment banking world. And again, it was really because I thought it would give me the most amount of doors open to me once I was there. Of course, I got caught there for 6 years, which is crazy and a long time to do
that's a lot of doors
banking.
To open,
Yeah. Well, then you start to realize actually you start to get pigeonholed into you're a lifetime banker now, and now all the doors are shutting again. It's like, whoa. And so I went back to business school to again open all of those doors and maybe join a startup. And I'll talk more about that as we go.
Yeah, nice. Actually, that's a good segue because I was also going to ask about going back to business school. So you worked in finance for a while, but then you decided to quit all that and go back to get your MBA, and you specifically chose Harvard. So I'm just curious, why Harvard? Like, what was it about that program that attracted you? And
Yep.
why go back and get an MBA? Like, what kind of pivot were you looking for?
Yeah, so I was really looking to get back into the entrepreneurial side of things. So I was looking for a career change. I think when you think about business school, generally because you either want a job that needs an MBA to get there, right? And you have a specific job in mind, or you want to change careers. And for me, I was doing the investment banking thing. I wanted to solve some problems and get more on the operating side of businesses. And so I thought I was going to join a startup. And in that, I wanted to I didn't know if business school was the right thing. So I talked to as many people as I possibly could. I talked to, I think the final count was 22 people, 11 people that were super. The thing was, they were all successful, right? And so half of them went to
Yeah.
business school, half of them did not. And consistently,
Okay.
every single time, the half that went to business school said it was the best thing I ever did. I would never be able to go. I would never be where I am today if it wasn't for those 2 years of business school, the connections I made. I You need to go to business school. And then the 11 people that I talked to that didn't go to business school said, I'm super successful now. Thank God I didn't go to business school. Like, it's the best decision I ever made not to have gone, right? Because that would have been 2 years of just wasted time and like partying and like I don't need that. Like, look where I am today. This is so my takeaway from all of that was like, okay, if you're going to be super successful, you're going to be super successful whether you go to business school or not. So do you want
Yeah.
is it going, are you going to learn something here? Are you going to create a network that you want? What is the long game for you? And so for me, that answer was, if I can get into one of the very best programs in the country. And so I really only applied to HBS and GSB, and slipped through the cracks, got in through the through the wait list at HBS, and I went to one of the classes. As you were looking at these schools, I went to one of the classes and the case study method, if people aren't familiar. So I read a case ahead of the class, talked about like this mining company in Norway, and like, here was this issue and like what were they going to do from 2015 or whatever, like a bunch of years back. And it's like,
Yeah.
what do you think happened, right? And the case kind of gets left unresolved, and you have to think about like, how would you deal with this as the CEO of this Norwegian mining company, right? And so you think about this and you talk about it in class for over an hour, and then all of a sudden, and this is where I was just like blown away, the CEO of that company literally walks in the door and is like, hey, this is like how I thought about this situation. This is what happened, and like comes to a nice resolution. And that's where I was sold. I was like, all right, I got to go here. This is really cool. If this is what the classes are like.
Yeah.
That blew me away.
That's cool. Yeah. I partly ask because I've always thought about going back for an MBA, but just never had enough reason to go spend, like you said, a couple of years, maybe $100,000 or $200,000 on it, because I do my own thing already, and I just learn through books and other people. But like, for sure, if I wanted to pivot and go get a job in corporate or something like that, it would all of a sudden make a lot more sense. But I've
Totally.
looked at the different MBA programs, and from last time I remember looking, I kind of liked the Stanford program. It seemed to have a little bit more focus on social impact. But to your point, the Harvard Business School is like famous for its case studies, right? And it's cool to be racking your brain on a business problem and then have the, the owner come in and tell you exactly what happened and whether or not you were right, rather than, I think part of the struggle of running your own business is you never know whether or not you're right. Only time will tell, right? You just have to make your best guess. So working through case studies, you can actually see like, here's what happened and here's the result or something. So
totally. And the learning was amazing, but at the same time, still the biggest value add are the people that you meet and the network that you build, going through that shared experience with a bunch of really capable people.
Yeah. And so my friends that have gone to the Harvard program, they all say that same thing. It's like, the education, maybe you could get the same education or whatever elsewhere, just read good books or whatever, but it's the people that you meet there that'll go on and be kind of your network after there, that, to your earlier point, like just opens up a lot of doors, makes great connections, good inspiration, good support group, et cetera. So that makes a lot of sense. So I know that you did the MBA program. It looked like when I was poking around in your background that you had a little bit of time off between finishing that program and starting Givz, but maybe you were doing something else. You just didn't feel like it was worth putting in your LinkedIn. So what were you doing during those blank years, and where did the idea for Givz come from?
You know what? It's a great question, and I had just changed. So in reality, what happened was I had started Givz actually like kind of at the end of business school. And so I've been doing Givz
Mm.
for 5 years now, since the end of business school. Now, what you're seeing on my LinkedIn is that I only started it 18 months ago. So for all those VCs listening, when we were going out to raise money, people were like, man, you've been at this for 5 years. It's been too long. And I was like, no. For the first 3 years, we were building a direct to consumer Venmo for charity, which is what Givz was initially when I launched it. And then we pivoted the business. For anybody thinking about a pivot, maybe rebranding, starting with a new name, something like that is probably a good idea, because now, we raised a pre-seed round a year and a half ago. Then now we're going out for the seed round. And so I don't want people to think like, oh, it's been 5 years and now he's only at the seed level stage. I'm supposed to fill in that gap with a fake name for Givz or something, for Givz direct to consumer for those first 3 years. But that's just what I did for right now, as I was getting frustrated with VCs coming back with 5 years on this and only here. It's like, no, well, we actually had a significant pivot a year ago. So that's the real story as to what's going on here.
For the people involved, it feels kind of the same. It's still a donation platform or something like that. I could see maybe keeping the name, but to your point, like what a lot of our clients do is when they're making that pivot, they'll kind of shift to a new name, new identity, and kind of start a new chapter.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, maybe even the books continue or whatever, like there's some things that continue, but like drawing a hard line of we were this and now we're that.
Exactly. I think that's something that looking back, I might have done. Again, I was so happy with this 4-letter domain and getting Givz.com that I was like, I can't change the name ever. So that was that.
Yeah. So speaking of the 4-letter domain, you mentioned that in the beginning too. Like, I know those are hard to come by these days, but I guess the best way to come by them is either have really deep pockets to where you could buy it, or do some sort of clever different spelling, right? So you did the Givz with a Z. So was it still crazy expensive, or just by using the Z, were you able to get it pretty affordably?
No, so what ended up happening was somebody owned it, but they had parked it. And so when I went to Givz.com, it was like, this domain is owned by whoever. And you could look up in the Whois database who actually owns that. And so I emailed that person and called that person over and over again while I was still in business school, trying to get them to respond. And so I emailed her once a month for like 6 months, I'd say. I bought Givz.io, which was cheap at that time. And I was like, okay, I'll start with that. But I want to get Givz.com. And I started to, build our site around Givz.io, tell her that we're doing something socially impact oriented and would really love to get the Givz.com domain. What does she want for it? And so after 6 months of emailing and leaving her a couple of nice voicemails, she replied back with just make your best offer in all caps. That was it. Make your best offer.
Nice.
And I was like,
driving a hard bargain.
That is interesting. I'm not going to make an offer. So I was like, listen, I'm in school. I tried to, she's like, no, you go to Harvard Business School. That's not going to fly here. Like what are you?
Nice try.
Yeah, you're not a student. Like I was like, no, but I am a student and I am paying a lot for this program. And I'm trying to do something good here. Let me tell you about what we're doing. And I really wanted to get her on the phone. And so we traded a bunch more emails. It took another couple months. And then finally she called me up on it was a Tuesday or Thursday at like 8 a.m. I'd already graduated from business school. I was like, who's calling me at 8 a.m.? And I talked to her until 10 or 10:30 in the morning, like 2.5 hours. And at the end of the conversation, she said, you know what? She was a self-described hardened marketer. So she was just buying up 4-letter domains because she was an SEO person and was like, hey, like these are going to be valuable one day. She had forgot she owned Givz.com until I emailed her incessantly. And she was like, I like what you're doing. I like what you're about. And I'm going to give you the GoDaddy codes in the next hour for free. And I was like, holy smokes, my gosh. Thank you so much. Yeah, pretty wild.
Nice. That's amazing. Yeah, I was expecting you to be like, sometimes. Yeah, I'll let it go for $1 million or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because we started to talk to our investors, and I was telling my investors, hey, I'm in negotiations with this woman. I don't know what it's going to come out to. And they were like, yeah, it could be, we should probably be expecting to pay somewhere 25, 50, 100 grand at least, type of deal. So Elizabeth, you missed out on 25K, but I think she's okay with that. She likes what we're doing, and she's
It was the original
I'm just
Give,
gonna,
right? She was the
yeah,
founding Give. Like she
exactly,
gave the
exactly,
domain for a good cause.
yeah,
So thank you,
yeah,
Elizabeth. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, I was super curious
exactly,
because I've always stumbled across the domain where I'm like, oh God, I would really love that, but someone just bought it or somebody's owned it for like 20 years or something. And I always see that like make an offer button, but I'm like, what's the likelihood that I'm even going to get a hold of them or negotiate with them or whatever else? So I usually just move on, but you've inspired me
yeah, it's
to
probably
like
smart.
try to negotiate. And if I'm really in love with a specific domain, I was just searching
Yeah, if you have
domains.
real passion
Yeah,
for it, I think it's a good thing. You never know.
totally. I was just looking at domains yesterday, and one of them I was looking at was $50,000. I'm like, I don't know if I can
Yeah,
justify that right now. So moving on,
it's
moving on.
insane. It's
Yeah.
insane.
I don't know if hate's the right word, but I kind of like strongly dislike the people who just went and scooped up every domain in the world just to like sell it later to poor schmoes who are just trying to get something off the ground later.
Yeah, I did investment banking for a long time, as we talked about previously, and one of the businesses that I wasn't involved. I was too late to the investment banking game to sell this guy's business. But his business, which was selling for a lot of money, he literally was able to hire an investment bank to sell his company because he had just acquired a ton of domains, and so his business was run out of I think his mother's or his grandmother's basement. Like it was just a guy who bought up a bunch of domains, but he bought up like back in 2001, 2002, whatever. He bought all the 2-letter domains and 3-letter domains, and so like
Oh my gosh.
AA.com turns out like American Airlines really wants that and is okay to pay like $1 million for it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's insane. It's crazy. So
But to me, it kind of feels
uh
like you're going and buying like all the corn in North America just so you can like sell it back
yeah,
to hungry people.
I
And it's like,
agree. I
it feels
agree.
a little
Yeah,
wrong. I
I
don't know
definitely
how that was
don't.
ever legal, especially like if
Yeah,
somebody owns a trademark, let's just say like Target or something like that. Let's say they were a little
right,
late to the internet game and they own a trademark
right.
on the word Target. And then somebody goes and steals their domains and then holds them ransom, basically.
Yeah, there are folks that are legitimately nasty that buy up like charity websites. I've seen this, like they buy up charity websites and then as soon as they expire because the charity like is not on top of letting renewing their subscription or whatever, so they buy it up and then they like hold it hostage. It's like, come on guys, like does it get any worse?
Yeah.
Is there any worse human beings on the planet than that? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's one thing to like hold it American Airlines ransom, but like, yeah, charities and stuff, that's even worse. So
Exactly,
anyway, I
exactly,
digress though. It's like,
exactly.
I was just super curious about that. So congrats on getting that Givz domain. I hope other
Thanks.
social entrepreneurs out there have similar luck. But
Same.
let's shift into what Givz is. So you mentioned that it started off and going in one direction, and then you made a pivot. So describe that first direction a little bit and why you decided to make a pivot.
So the first direction was really like a direct to consumer app that you could download on your phone, whether you had an Android or an Apple device, and you could then make donations to any charity in America from that app. And so you upload your financial information once, never again, right? And you have all your tax deductible receipts in one spot. That was the general idea for Givz 1.0. And we had we had this initial sense of fit where we had 3,000 power users who were using this and donating even more than they normally would because it was so easy and giving us great feedback. But I think we really like had those early adopters were amazing, but it got incrementally way more expensive to get to that next person. Like those were the people that were givers, right? Like they were givers through and through, and this was a product for them, and that was great. But the market ended up being way too small in terms of everyday people say they want to give, sure, and they genuinely do want to do something, but when it turns into, hey, this is going to cost me money, and like I don't know who I want to give to right now, and I don't know when I'm gonna want to do it. It's hard to get them to get over the hump of getting that first donation is also the same. You have to put in your payment information anyway,
Yeah.
and so it doesn't feel that magical until the second, third, fourth donations, which a lot of people weren't getting to. So,
Interesting.
and
Okay.
that was the reality of the situation. And when cost of the acquisition of a customer, wasn't 4 times or was 4 times the lifetime value of the customer as opposed to vice versa, it's a problem and you need to pivot.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so how did you decide where to pivot then, like the current model, and describe the current model for everyone listening?
Yeah, so we had this platform where people could donate to any charity in America, and we had 2 brands come to us and say, "Hey, we want to replace our discounts with, instead of giving somebody a discount to sign up for our service in one case, or instead of giving somebody $40 discount to buy this handbag, we want to give them $40 to give to any charity that they want. So they buy the handbag for full price, but now they get $40 to give to any charity that they want." They sent this email and they did an A/B test, split their email list in two. Half the people got an offer that said, "Here's $40 off." Half the people got an offer that said, "Here's $40 to give to charity if you buy right now." And 20% more people purchased. 20% more people, right? I mean, and they were purchasing full price, right? So it was like 30% more revenue. It was crazy, right? And so that was something that it was like, whoa, we've really unlocked something here. And so we did 2 of those tests. Both came back in similar vein, and we were like, okay, that's it. This is what we do now. And we pivoted the business basically right then and there. I wish we did it even faster. Like, we kept both businesses alive for a while.
Oh, really?
But that was it. Like, just boom. We should have just fully cut off the direct consumer piece, and this one felt so much more right.
Well, that's pretty awesome though, that the brands reached out and asked you for it and you were willing to like give it a shot. And then when it worked, you're like, okay, this is the direction. I mean, I think that's the thing, is like a lot of business is equally luck, right? It's by luck, I mean, things happen that was kind of out of your control, and that there's some amount of control in that you get to decide whether to take those opportunities or not, right? When somebody comes and knock on the door, you get to decide whether to open it and invite them in or not. And so same thing with opportunities. This opportunity knocked, so it's not all luck. You took advantage of that luck and you knew it made sense to pivot. But it was awesome that those brands showed up at your door, knocked on the door and said, "Hey, have you thought about trying this?"
Totally. And you have to put yourself in a position to get lucky. I've talked about this before, but I think putting yourself in a position to get luck is a huge role, right? Like, I will never discount timing is everything. Luck is there's a lot of luck that plays into even the biggest success stories and and unlucky in the biggest failure stories in a lot of cases, right? Like, things out of your control that just happen. You want to put yourself in a position to get lucky, right? And so for me, everything from, hey, like, we would have never started Givz the way it is now if I hadn't started Givz in the first place, right? If I had just stayed in investment banking, I wouldn't be right? So that was the first leap to put myself in a position to be able to take advantage of that luck. And then saying yes to those brands was a huge decision. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously you pivoted. You said you wish you would have done it a little quicker. Like, how long did it take to pivot? Like, how long were you running both kind of platforms side by side?
We ran both platforms for like a year. And that's way too long. We really should have just boom, next month shut down. I mean, maybe it's a 3-month transition to shut down that other piece, but 12 months was too long.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And you were running them both out of your 4-letter domain and using the same name. Yes. So did you find there was like any confusion about that? Like, you were trying to pitch this new version and people are like, wait, I don't get it. That's not what the app says.
Yeah, totally. They'd be like, wait, like we'd have people coming to us being like, hey, I go to the site now and like, there's no way to log in. Like, how do I log in? And I was like, wait, are you a brand or a consumer? Right. And like trying to figure out like which version of Givz they're even talking about on the chatbot. And so there was definitely some confusion there, a lot of learning from this whole thing. And really, we had a 4 donors or 4, organizations type of tabs that you could toggle between, but it was still confusing.
Yeah. Okay. So I know on your website and probably other materials that you publish, you talk about how the kind of psychology of discounts versus like donation incentives, right? And I think everyone in the marketing world loosely at least understands that discounts can damage your brand, right? If you just constantly offer cheaper and cheaper prices, people start to lose the understanding of your value and so on and so forth. So like keeping your price high and maybe just rarely offering sales. Like how often does Apple, for example, a very valued company with products that are pretty expensive, like how often are they doing sales? Pretty much never, right? It's just like they give a student discount and maybe some corporate discounts. That's about it. Right. Whereas like other brands like a Target even or a Walmart, like they are based off of discounts. That's out of business
now, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And not to say that Walmart's doing poorly, but like the perception of the Walmart brand versus the perception of the Apple brand is completely different, right? So I think we get the general idea there, but how are you seeing the donation kind of incentive differing from the discount incentive in terms of how people are perceiving the brand?
Yeah. So so now in the e-commerce world, there's all these analytics tools as well, right? So people have like qualitatively felt this discount piece hurting their brand, but they haven't like quantitatively seen it in a chart.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can plug in Peel Insights is a partner of ours, but any number of these title, a bunch of places that you plug this into your store and it shows you cohort analysis and you see like, here's your average spend for customers. And it's like a normal, this is your normal bar. And then there's like a cohort of people that are just like, their lifetime value stinks. And you're like, who are those people? Like, what, why, what is that? It's like, oh, those are the people that came in on Black Friday last year. They just bought on like the steep discount and they never came back. And it's like, got it. And so you can actually see like you are spending money to acquire these people that only buy once and probably never again because they bought on this huge steep discount and they're just not customers that you want to acquire that way, right? And so and then the nice part is and why we love our partners at Peel and Taito everywhere else, but like who's the group up here? It's like, oh, that's the group that's engaged with Givz, actually. they're the group that's actually spending more with you and donating to a charity that they care about after they make a qualifying purchase. They're spending more with the first purchase, and then they're coming back at multiples of what normal people that visit your store are coming back at. And so that being able to see that data is what really excites me every single day.
That's interesting. So do you know, like you talked briefly about that first case study, increased sales 20%, I think you were saying. So is that increased sales amongst existing customers? Like people are like buying more because to get to that donation amount? Or is this like attracting new customers to a brand for the first time and then they keep coming back?
So it's both, but the first case study was new customers. So that was actually like a prospect list, email list that they had created. And that was, they had 20% increase in conversion, which actually led to 30% type more sales, but 20% increase in conversion. And because it was full price, it was much higher sales. And that was that first test. Now we see a whole host of other things happening, right? So for a win back campaign or people that you've already got in your email lists or because they've already purchased from you or whatever, this is again another reason for them to come back and try, oh yeah, I like that brand, I remember that. Oh, if I buy now, I'm going to get money to give to charity. I wanted to do something good today. Now they feel like they're doing good, even though they're getting something that they kind of wanted anyway. And it's just a nice reason to buy. So we see win back campaigns work extremely well with something like this. But the craziest part of this whole thing, which we've only been around now in the current Givz 2.0 for a year and a little bit, but we're starting to see 12-month lifetime values coming back at 244% higher than the average base case, right? Like people are spending 2.4x. People that came in and donated money are spending 2.4 times what other people are spending. We just loaded up somebody's data into Peel and saw that their lifetime value, 12-month lifetime value of somebody who has donated was $750, whereas somebody lifetime value who had not been exposed to Givz at all was like 85. Like insane numbers that we're seeing.
That's super impressive. I mean, the Give model kind of has been tested, by various companies, right? I think one of the famous case studies, maybe you saw it at Harvard, I don't know, but that was the Tom's Shoes kind of case study, right? Where they were one of the
Yeah.
first to really kind of scale the buy one, give one kind of business model, right?
Yes.
For those that don't know, Tom's like made shoes, and their whole model was that if you buy our shoes, we're going to donate a pair of shoes, like the same shoes, to someone in need who doesn't have shoes, right? So interesting model. A lot of people bought the brand because of what it said about them, right? Conspicuous consumption. Like
Yes.
same thing with the Prius. Like
Yes.
you buy the Prius or
Yes.
the shoes because they look so unique and different. And people who know those brands or know that car know that, hey, you're doing the right thing for the world. So it's like, says something good about you,
Right.
makes you feel good about yourself, which is a pretty cool model. But what I'm curious to hear is that model where it's just automatic, it's baked into the business. Like I go buy shoes, they donate shoes, versus I go buy, something from one of the Givz clients, and then I get to choose a charity to donate to, which is, I think, your model, right? Do you have any data
Correct.
on the difference between those two models in effectiveness of getting new customers, or like customer satisfaction or brand loyalty or anything like that?
Yeah. So actually, it's very interesting that you bring up Tom. So I think since Tom's Warby Parker with glasses, and then Bombas with socks, has done a great job with that 1-for-1 piece.
Yeah.
It was a bit gimmicky in the beginning, right? Like it was kind of trendy, like you were saying, to do this. And then what ended up happening with Tom's in particular is that there started to come out some stuff where it was like, hey, like they're donating shoes to this one place over and over again, and that place
doesn't
didn't
even want the
actually
shoes.
have any. They didn't need it. They didn't need any more shoes. And so that press started to leak, and it was like, yeah, we're donating shoes. They want to keep their promise, so they're still donating shoes, but the people didn't need them. In fact, it was like, no, please stop giving us shoes. Everybody who needs them has them in this community right now. Like that's no longer helpful. And so Tom's actually went, I believe they filed Chapter 11, right? And so they bankrupt and then start again. And now if you go to Tom's and you actually buy a pair of shoes, you have 6 choices as to what you want to support. You could donate a pair of shoes, or you could do 5 other things, right? So they've started to move into the Givz model, which I think is very interesting from just like, Tom's has always been on the forefront of thinking about this. And so I'm glad that they're finally joining us here. I think we were really early to it. I think they're still early to it, right? But every brand now should be able to do this, and that's what we're trying to do. But if you just think about it from a consumer standpoint, it is always having that agency is so important. And we see all sorts of stats, right? Like because there are some brands that want to say like, hey, like, we want the donation to be automatic to this one charity. And so we have stats within the same organization. They run an initiative where 10% of sales is going to breast cancer's coming up. So, Breast Cancer Awareness Month is coming up in October. So they're going to run 10% of sales goes to BCRF, right? First of all, you have to sign an agreement with BCRF to do something like this. Like there's some legal hoops to jump through there if you're going to use their logo and use their likelihood. So that's one issue. And then on top of that, it's going to underperform. We've seen it, because then you run the same exact campaign, 10% of sales go into a charity that you care about, but now you feature BRCF, and so then BCRF, sorry, and then they actually get more money because more people bought, saying like, hey, I care about a charity. And then when you actually purchase, you're presented with, hey, BCRF, and you're like, oh yeah, that's actually a great charity, and you actually think about it. From a consumer standpoint, it's just much more motivating to have that agency, and then have to think about it even from the charity standpoint. Yeah, the charity likes the money, but if somebody actually clicks like, yes, I want this money to go to BCRF, that is going to be much more valuable for BCRF down the line than even just being like, oh yeah, I purchased, my money went somewhere, I don't even know where it went.
Right. I wasn't thinking about that, but yeah, for the consumer shopper, whatever, who's engaging in this, I could 100% see it more rewarding for them, because the original Tom's model, where it's like, you just buy the shoes, we take care of the rest. It's a very passive model, right? It's like, great, I did something good, But like you didn't get to choose who got the shoes or like whether or not it's shoes or something else
Exactly.
that's donated or whatever. So passive versus
That's
kind of
right.
what you're doing is more active where they get to say, well, what's important to me? And then when you choose it, you feel like you did it. Yeah, right. It's kind of like a baking
Totally.
mix that
Totally. And you
requires
did.
like just an egg or something versus egg and milk. You're going to feel more accomplished as a baker when you use those two ingredients.
I love that story. I love that story. I think that was I didn't get that case at Harvard,
Yeah.
but there is a case study about that, and that is amazing. I love that story.
Yeah, I forget which brand it was, like Betty
but
Crocker
yeah,
or something. But yeah, it was a good one.
Betty Crocker. Yeah. They were like they sold the whole thing just in a powder. You just add water and like or whatever, and you just bake it, and it's done. Versus like, okay, we extract the egg from the powder, so you just have the powder, put an egg in, and now all of a sudden they're selling out like crazy, whereas they couldn't sell it beforehand. That's a great story. I think for me, the way I think about this is like similar to that. Like yes, you definitely. And there's been a ton of studies done on like when you donate money, when you think about what you want to support and actually click, yeah, I'm sending money to this charity. Those giving neurons fire off in your brain and it makes you feel good for a couple of hours or for the rest of the day. Like there is a real positive effect that happens there. And you are getting that. And with the Givz model, in a lot of cases, it does matter where you're sending that money, because if you don't choose something, it could either expire and no charity is going to get it, or it could end up just going to a charity that you may or may not care about, right? That the brands choose.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that you brought up that was interesting to me too is that the charity also benefits more, right? Because if it's an automatic donation and somebody's like, yeah, I don't know, they donated to something, I'm not really sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas
no clue.
when you choose it, you're probably going to remember, and maybe you go and follow their newsletter. Maybe you like go and subscribe to their website, or maybe you set up like a monthly donate. Like if you chose them, you probably like are thinking about it more. You looked into them, maybe educated yourself a little bit more, and now you're more of a,
even if you just read the description, even if you just read the description right there, right, which is a paragraph, but now you're like, oh, I've heard of BCRF, but like Breast Cancer Research Foundation, okay, what do they do? And like you click that, and you're like, oh, okay. And I have $6 sitting here that I can give to them. Great, I'm going to give to them. Absolutely, you're going to be more likely to follow them on a social media handle or something like that.
Yeah, totally. So we're kind of talking about the increased value of a customer, whether it's purchase more at once or just purchase more over time, which is a great benefit of donation versus discounts. But I think one thing you talk about a lot too is reducing this discount dependency. You know, we talked about how discounts can hurt your brand, but it's also just costs money, right? So can you talk a little bit about that, of how not only are you helping people win higher value customers, but they're also saving money from not discounting as much?
Yeah. So consistently, we're seeing about a 50% redemption rate. So when somebody makes a qualifying purchase, they're then donating that money 50% of the time. And this happens after purchase. So in general, people interact with anything after purchase somewhere between 5 and 10% of the time. So 50% of the time is a massive number, but it's still 50%. So when you sell something for 20% off, let's use $100 to keep the numbers round and whole, you sell it for $80. That's it. You're getting $80 in, and then you have all your costs associated against that. When you sell something for $100, but give people $20 to give to charity, you get $100 in, and then if that person donates the $20, sure, then they donate $20. Now you're back to 80 against your costs. But if they don't do it and they let it expire and they don't care and you don't have to pay for that person, then fine. Then you just made a full price $100 sale, and now your costs go against the $100 instead of the $80, and so that's a much better financial position for you as well, which is going to allow you to donate more in the future, and keep your business growing. So I think that's what we are very excited about as we continue to grow here.
Nice. So that kind of reminds me of Starbucks. So I was reading something about Starbucks recently, how they said, or that somebody wrote an article saying, yeah, you think Starbucks is in like either the coffee business or like McDonald's maybe in the real estate business, but what they're doing now behind the scenes is they're creating kind of like a financial empire, because they're gift cards, right? Like it's a default gift card for people to buy to like thank someone.
Yeah, here's a Starbucks card.
But like you said, how often do those get redeemed?
Totally.
So Starbucks has gobs and gobs of money, millions, if not billions of dollars out there just sitting on gift cards that may or may not ever actually get redeemed or spent. So it's just by selling more and more gift cards, they're just like getting free money, just like printing money basically. So same kind of idea with what you're talking about is like, not that you don't want people to like donate to the charity, but that it's reality. People like you're either automatically giving them the money or you're giving them the choice, and then it's up to them. And maybe some people will be like, okay, I forgot about it. Like I've got gift cards on my desk that are years old that I forget to use. So it's like, I'm part of the problem, right? But it's a benefit for the company because you're sort of like printing cash in there.
Totally. And I think that's something that's not lost on especially growing brands. And the nice part is, if a lot of brands will talk, they'll be like, well, what if somebody made a purchase for $200, but they were going to spend that $200 anyway? It's like, yeah, well, discounts have that same problem. Like, yeah, they were going to buy at full price, but you gave them a discount, so they bought on a discount. Whereas here, you actually have a chance of, if somebody really doesn't want to donate to charity, they really don't care, then they won't, and then you don't pay for them, and that's fine. But more and more, we're seeing that number grow and grow. So a year ago, it was 25% of people would donate. Now it's 50%. We're approaching I think the number was right around 60 to 70% of mail-in rebates back in the day that got that was cash back in your pocket, but only 60 to 70% of them were getting redeemed. So, we're starting to approach that number, and we'll see how much higher we can get.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And that's part of like the benefit of like Tom's shoes. Like when they were donating a pair of shoes, for example, they weren't donating the full retail value. They were just donating their hard cost, right? So it was kind of like a discount too. Like
that's right.
They were perceived as giving away a $50 pair of shoes, but really you were giving away $10 or $5 or something like that. So
that's right.
Anyway, so that's super interesting. I'm curious if you're seeing this work in any like specific category better than others, or like product price or consumer type or anything like that. Like, is this like you're finding that mostly green consumers or conscious consumers are attracted to this, or is it everyone? And then specifically, maybe like in my mind, I'm thinking like product price is probably a big maybe comes into play. For example, if it's a $5 product and you discount it 50 cents, like, maybe you're not losing as much brand value and whatever. But if it's a $2,000 product, like, and it's discounted, you're probably like hurting yourself. Only discount shopper, whatever. Like you're getting damaged more.
Fine jewelry, for example, you can't be discounting.
So maybe those higher end brands are getting more value from this. I'm not sure.
Great question. And again, we thought, so first, when we first tested this, the two brands that came to me were both high-end luxury brands with high price points, right? So like handbags that were like $400 or whatever, right? And so giving $40 off or 10% discount, or $200 handbag, 20% off, right? That was where I thought this would live, right? Like targeting wealthier millennial women was the target audience that I thought might resonate best. And it worked really well with those first two brands. And we're like, okay, this is our wheelhouse. And then our first big break to talk about getting lucky, a friend of a friend knew somebody at H&M who said, hey, we want to try this. We want to do something where it's like spend $60, get $10 to give to a charity of choice. And I was nervous because H&M was not targeting the wealthy millennial woman, right? And they were really targeting Gen Z who cared about charity but didn't have a lot of spending power. And I was like, are they gonna spend over $60 without any sort of discount code associated with this? Will they do it? And we saw great results with H&M. It performed. It didn't have. It was the only email that performed like a discount email that did not have a discount code in it, in terms of conversion. And then when they actually got, when Gen Z and when the H&M consumer got their $10 to give to a charity of their choice, they erupted. They donated. They opened that email. That was the most opened email that H&M had sent all year, where it was like, hey, here's your $10 to give to a charity of choice. People care. And so that was extremely exciting to see. And so since then, we've done everything from $3,000 electric bikes, where they're giving away $200 if you make a purchase today. You're going to get $200 to give to a charity of choice, all the way through to it actually may work. Like, I mean, the biggest ROI that we've seen right now is a health and wellness type of brands, beauty, skincare, anything like that, anything with a lot of SKUs that people want to try. Snack companies, kind of interesting, right? Like anything that people want to try multiple things of, and they're going to keep coming back. And you can say like, hey, try all 5 flavors, or all, buy the hair serum plus the shampoo plus the conditioner type deal and bundle it up. And now you can spend, even if AOV is anywhere in the high 30 to low $40 range, then spend $50 or more, get 5% to give to charity, crushes, because the consumer behavior there is like, okay, I'll just add one more item to the cart, get over the $50, feel good about my purchase. And it's a similar type of deal, at the $100 spend threshold. So that's that game. And then once you get into the $200, $300 AOV type of stuff, that's where you move away from the 5% donated to a charity of your choice and move more into like the dollar amount, because now you can say, hey, you make a $200 purchase, you're going to get $25 to give to a charity that you care about. That's pretty cool, right? And it's just, and I'll take this one moment to, like, people think about Givz and they're like, oh, is that like kind of like the roundup thing? And it's like, no, not, it's not a roundup. This is not what we're doing.
Your change.
Yes, we're not donating change. And so like, I think about this, like the way I tell this story is CVS. When you walk into a CVS, they used to do like, hey, do you want to donate $1 to this charity? And like people are looking in line, staring at you. And that was super uncomfortable. So now it's like, hey, do you want to round up your change, kind of deal instead and donate the change? And it's still kind of that same feeling where it's like, this is a reason not to go to CVS, even as somebody who wants to do good, but it's like, I don't know this charity, but like, why I came here to buy toilet paper. Why am I getting hit up to donate on top? But then if I go to CVS, the Givz version of that would be I go to CVS and I walk in and there's a sign that says, hey, if you spend $50 or more today at CVS, we'll give you $5 to give to whatever charity you want. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I just came here to get toilet paper, but I could also use toothpaste and shampoo. And so like, I may as well just buy it now because I'm going to get this $5 to give to a charity of my choice. And that's the behavior we want to unlock.
Yeah, that's cool, because at that point, it doesn't feel like your money. Whereas if they're just saying, do you want to donate $5 to this charity we designated, and you're not even really sure it really exists or whatever, you're like, I don't know. Do I?
Exactly.
I don't know anything about this. But when they just say, buy more stuff that you were probably going to come in tomorrow to buy anyway, just buy it now and we'll give you money. Yeah. We'll give you our money for you to donate. Right?
Exactly.
So makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Well, one thing that just popped in my head is, a lot of e-commerce companies struggle with the shipping thing, right? Especially if it's like a hard to ship product, like maybe it ships cold and has to come with ice packs and be, shipped fast and whatever. So there's always this debate of like, do I do free shipping or do I set like a dollar amount where if you buy $100, then we'll give you free shipping, etc.
Free shipping.
So you were the donations kind of work similarly, like hit this dollar amount and we'll give you this much money. But
totally.
Are you seeing... So here's my question. Are you seeing the donation have people work around the having to give free shipping? Like instead of offering free shipping, if you purchase $100, they give you a discount or a donation instead. Is that working just as well or better than free shipping?
So free shipping, especially in the day of Amazon Prime, right? And free shipping everywhere. People want their free shipping. I would not mess with free shipping. In fact, we've just built a feature where now you can through Givz, you can actually set like tiers. And so you can say free shipping unlocks at $100. And then at $200, you get 10% of your purchase back to give to a charity of your choice. So it's like a tiered system and tells you, hey, you're $75 away. You've already unlocked free shipping, but you're $75 away from getting 10% of your purchase back to give to a charity or something like that, right? Like that is a feature the newest feature that we've just built. But a lot of brands are now just giving away free shipping. They're like, we have to, otherwise people are going to try to find a similar product on Amazon. And so now with that kind of carrot no longer available, what can we do to get people to buy more? And so that's where they use Givz.
Yeah. It's a hard world for direct to consumer these days because of Amazon and their free shipping, right? Yeah. Because now all of a sudden you might have to absorb like $50 shipping for a product that maybe only costs $50 just because it ships frozen or whatever. So it's super difficult for brands out there struggling with difficult to ship items. But I guess it's the world we live in. You just got to start working it into your cost of goods and know that it's, I don't know, somehow you got to figure out how to absorb that cost. But anyway.
Yeah. And we do have people that, I mean, again, it'll help. It will definitely help the spend threshold on the Givz side of things, especially if you have that, a lot of those products are ending up, in the hands of people that will be excited to donate in some way, shape, or form. And so it definitely helps. It's just like, free shipping is free shipping, and people love their free shipping.
Yeah, totally. So we're running kind of short on time, but I want to finish up with this one question because it's something I'm passionate about, which is kind of aligning your brand with your mission. So in line with kind of these discounts, I think I saw an article on your website or something about the importance of aligning the causes with your brand values or something like that. And you had like a long article about setting brand values and all that kind of stuff. So can you talk about what you're seeing in terms of the effectiveness of these campaigns if the donation options align somehow with the brand or the brand's values or the customer's values or all three?
Yeah. So initially, like our biggest pushback from brands was that they like, hey, we already have our brand values established and we, already do some sort of give back piece. And I'm like, that's awesome. But you're also running a 20% discount right now. We can make that more effective and we can amplify your brand values. Right. And so we see a lot of value. There's a lot of value coming from, Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Pride Month and, an Earth Day and et cetera, et cetera. There's no lack of causes to like build initial campaigns around, but something evergreen, like increasing your AOV, spend $50 or more, get 50% to get 5% to give to a charity of your choice. That's where, you can now align your pillars of your brand values. You guys have always stood for sustainability. You have always stood for the environment, whatever it may be. You can now highlight charities so people make that $50 plus purchase. They now see, another showing of how this brand is innovative and interesting. They're now letting me donate $4.50 to whatever charity I want to give to. Okay, let me take a look. And here they're highlighting Oceana and they're highlighting some charities that, I had never heard of the Surfrider Foundation. Let me take a look at that. That's actually really cool. I'm going to give to that. Or, you know what? I started a charity, or my friend started a charity that deals with the environment or doesn't, but it's something that I care about. And now this brand is going to support what I care about. That's really quite interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. And the part of the reason I like it is exactly what you just mentioned. Like when you align your kind of impact efforts with your brand, it not only is more obvious and exciting to your customers because they came to your brand probably because they have similar values to you, right? And then when they see you reflecting those values, they're like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, that's awesome. I'm totally excited about Surfrider or Cleaning Oceans or whatever it is, right? And to your point, then it also adds value back to the brand because they're reminded of why they love the brand so much because they share those values.
They actually get a receipt on Givz that says, sorry.
No worries.
We have they
get a receipt on Givz of that value alignment. Yeah. But anyway, so by having that alignment, then you'll get more people wanting to engage in it because theoretically their values are aligned to it. So they're going to want to opt into it. Right. So it makes sense on so many different levels to make sure it's all aligned. So I like the fact that you point that out. Well, this was a fun conversation. It sounds like we could kind of continue chatting for a while, but I know we need to wrap up here. So I appreciate you coming on to share a little bit about how Givz works, a little bit on kind of the value of donation versus kind of discount incentives, and just sharing a little bit more of your story. It's fun to hear how people kind of pivot in their career and how businesses pivot and you end up where you are now. I wish you the best of luck. I'm hoping that a lot of the brands listening to this show right now will go check out your website, givz.com, and we'll kind of give it a try, right? Because I think most of the people listening to the show are already, like you said, donating or doing whatever they can. So why not align that donating with their brand, make it easy for customers, give them a sense of action in it or sense of choice in it and agency. There you go. It seems like a win-win. So yeah, thanks for doing what you're doing and thanks for coming and share a little bit more about it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Andrew or Givz, go to givz.com. That's Givz.com. rebranded.com. Subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel for more innovator interviews, expert advice, and leadership discussions. If you like this episode, leave a heart, thumbs up, or review, and share it with your colleagues. As an ever-evolving show, we also love feedback, so send us your thoughts or ideas for who we should talk to next to evolve@modernspecies.com.